living God. But in order to serve him, you must first learn his ways.
Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not steal. Honor thy father.
Long time and watched the world in Noah's day. And when he got ready to deal with it, he told Noah, get ready. He didn't even tell them because they stopped listening. You understand? Because he said, gotten to the point that it repented him that he had created man, because man's thoughts was evil continually. Now he disciplined, he'd tell you, and after a while he stopped talking. And when you hear from him again, somebody is being destroyed. Because the Lord have his laws, and his laws cannot be done away with. That's why the Lord calls me to make this lesson, the law, spiritual and holy. The law, spiritual and holy. You know, people think, will run up and say, well, God ain't no vain God. Well, if he ain't no vain God, then why is it that you doing things that you know he'll destroy you for, that he said he'll destroy you for? We're going to have a look at these commandments, sisters and brothers, but we're going to show you how did they get to man? First, let's start this in Exodus, the 19th chapter. Exodus chapter 19. The Lord put this here, and it's in every generation. And people don't want to deal with the laws of God because it's too simple, so they want to complicate everything. That's why you got a whole lot of bunch of books. You have a whole lot of philosophers and a whole lot of philosophers standing right at the pulpit, because at the roster, because they want to complicate the law. So people think that they have a safety net, that the Lord would allow anything. Sisters and brothers, I'm here to let you know that that is not the case. This is not a vain God. Adam and Eve, I'd say Eve anyway, must have thought that God was a vain God when he said, the day that you eat of this tree, that's the day you're going to die. Adam must have thought that the Lord was jiving too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have went along with Eve. But we dying every day, ain't we? Yes, all because we simply couldn't take orders or obey, sisters and brothers. We're going to start this at Exodus 19 and verse 1. Exodus 19 and verse 1. Okay, read it.
In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai.
Go ahead.
And had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount.
Now when the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt, he brought them directly to the Mount of Sinai because he had a message he wanted to give them. We're not going to deal with the whole message, but we're going to show you that he wanted to get the pecking order straight. Skip down to verse 9. Verse 9, go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord.
Now he said, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to speak to you because I want these people to believe you. Because what I'm going to tell you, they had better believe it. And not just for your generation. He said, forever. That's a long time, sisters and brothers. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes.
Go ahead.
And be ready against the 3rd day. For the 3rd day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai.
Now that lets you know the Lord go for cleanliness too, don't he? He said, let them wash their clothes. In other words, don't come before me dirty and stinking. You can go out and party, you clean as you can be. But if you're going to come before the Lord, wash yourself and put on something worth looking at. Unless you just poor. If you that broke, then ask somebody, maybe they'll get you something. But I just wanted to point this out, sisters and brothers. Let them wash their clothes. So you can't come to the Lord any way you want, can you? Skip down to verse 14 and read it.
And Moses went down from the mount unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes.
And they did what he said. Skip down to verse 17 and go ahead.
And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the nether part of the mount.
So who did they come out of the camp to meet with? With God, sister and brother. Because God going to give him something so important that he wants to give this in person. This is what people got to understand when it comes to God's law. Go ahead and read.
And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly.
Go ahead.
And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice.
So when Moses spoke, the Lord answered him by voice. Everybody heard his voice, and they heard it clear. So we are going to see what the Lord spoke. We're going to go into the 20th chapter, Exodus, and see what the Lord came. This is the message that the Lord brought Israel. And we're going to show you this message covers all messages, sisters and brothers. 20 and 1. Go ahead and read.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
First thing he tell you shall have no other God before me. And then when I get around people start talking about gods as in plural, I just go on about my business, because they don't know what they're dealing with. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God,
Go ahead.
visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Now he said, look, I don't want you to make no images of nothing in heaven, under heaven, on the earth, or anything, and bow down to it. But nobody's listening. The church got statues everywhere, little baby statues. But then you got the pictures on the wall with this guy with the long hair and the blue eyes. So we going to get creative. Well, he black, so I got me a black picture. It's still an image. If it's supposed to represent God, then you have violated the commandment, sisters and brothers. Any image, cross, star, whatever. The Lord said, I don't want you to make no images of nothing. Go ahead and read.
6. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me.
He going to deal with the people that hate him. Who are those that hate him? The one that breaks his law. But he going to show mercy to the thousands that love him. That the Lord know he makes a difference, don't he? If you hate him, he going to deal with you like a person that hate him. If you love him, he going to show mercy to you. Go ahead and read.
And keep my commandments.
And keep my commandments. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
In other words, you don't be walking around making God jokes and Jesus jokes and this and that. I use the Lord's name very sparingly, sisters and brothers. That's when I am dispersing knowledge or trying to get somebody to understand something. A lot of people, well, Lord this and Lord that and Jesus this. He said, no, what are you using? You don't have to do that. You use it in vain. My name is great. When you use it like something that's great. Go ahead and read.
8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Now, this is one thing we got to pay some attention to. The Lord told you how to deal with him. That is the most important thing on the agenda. Then the next most important thing to him was his Sabbath day. This is what you got to understand. Look at the order that the Lord put these things in. So if this is the next most important thing to him, then how can you change it and say this is the Lord's Sabbath day to the first day of the week? Now he said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Go ahead and read.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
Go ahead.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor the stranger that is within thy gates.
So he said you should do no work on this day. Now you in captivity, you got one of them jobs and you can't get away, can't get off of it, and it's not your fault, then the Lord gave you room for that. Because he told the Pharisees, like, which of you that have an ox that'll fall in the well on the Sabbath day and won't pull him out? If it's something beyond your control, then you got to eat, sister and brother. However, if you don't have to do it, he said don't do it. Don't get up and wash your car. Don't wash your clothes. Don't get up and clean up your house. You got 6 days to clean your house up. He says 6 days you shall labor, but the 7th is the Lord's Sabbath day. Go ahead and read.
11. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
That's the only day he named. And he called it by number so you can't mess it up. People say, well, how do you know that the Saturday is still the Sabbath day? All you got to do is count to 7 and not start back over. That's kind of hard to mess up, ain't it? Go ahead and read.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
There's an honor thy father and thy mother.
That thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal.
Now this is all clear, sisters and brothers. You shall not steal. You shall not commit adultery. He said, you shall not do these things. And if you are doing it and think that you're going to get away from it, God is going to deal with you, sisters and brothers. Sometimes people think that they can do all this stuff. Well, ain't nothing happened to me now. You done got by. All of a sudden, when you're at your most comfortable time, the Lord will bring the drum on you when you cannot afford it. It's all that simple. Go ahead and read.
16. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
You should not run around lying on people without having any kind of proof of it. In fact, to tell you the truth, you don't bear no witness anyway unless you can fix it. That's what I tell people all the time. Don't tell me about this sister's business. If she have a problem, tell her. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Go ahead.
Nor his manservant. Nor his maidservant. Nor his ox.
Go ahead.
Nor his ass. Nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
He made it clear, ain't it? Don't cover your neighbor's house, his ox, his wife, his substance, or anything that is thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet it. And if you do, you got to look out for the Lord, sisters and brothers. That's what people don't understand. The Lord is God, and he watches everything. He got 7 angels that run to and fro in this earth, called the 7 spirits of God. They're everywhere. You ain't getting away with nothing. The Lord just going to wait until you can least afford it, and he going to drop the hammer on you. And ain't nobody going to be able to save you. I am telling you this for your good. Because the Lord that we serve is not a vain God. Now, he delivered these commandments in person. So you can't say, well, the angel dropped a stitch. Or maybe the angel didn't get it right. The Lord come down on Mount Sinai in the presence of all Israel. A whole nation heard him say that, so a whole nation can't forget, can they? Why did he do this? Because he said, Moses, I want them to believe you forever, because this is for every generation. Now, once he got through talking to Moses, let's see what else he did. Let's go to the 24th chapter of Exodus. 24th chapter of Exodus. Because somewhere along the line, people think that God don't mean what he said. And then when the drama come, all they want to go, oh, my brother must please help me. I didn't know better. You cannot say that if you've been in the Israel of God for 6 months. I might not teach nothing else too good, but I teach the law. It's all that simple. You can't tell me you don't know what the law is. Because when I stand before God, even if I'm in trouble, I know one thing I can say, Lord, you know I taught you the law now. Verse 12, go ahead. Verse 12, go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me into the mount, and be there, and I will give thee tables of stones, and a law, and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them.
He said, now he gave them to him. Then he told him to come on up here now. I'm going to give you a law and commandment that you may teach them. See, because the Lord wants you to understand the logistics. If you do this, you will get this. If you do this, you'll get that. So you come on up here. Now let's go in Exodus, the 31st chapter. 31st chapter. And we're going to read verse 18. See, because we're just strictly looking at what the Lord has done. He told Moses, now you come on. I done spoke them, but you know, you might have the people might have a memory lapse. So then I'm going to put them in right. We're going to read one verse. Verse 18. Verse 18. Okay, go ahead.
And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God.
Now look, the Lord could have told Moses, come on up here with a pencil and paper. They had pencil and paper in those days. But he wrote them in stones to let you know that these laws are forever. You can't come and erase a stone. It's not going to deteriorate. It's not going to get wet. It can rain on it, and once it dries, you still have thou shalt not. He was making a point here, sisters and brothers. Oh, he had Moses write them on paper later on, but still he had them written in stone. Because the Lord wanted them to understand what he is talking about. Now, while the Lord, Moses was up there getting these commandments, Israel was downstairs, down at the mountain, breaking them. Even before he delivered. I'm going to tell you something, sisters and brothers. That's why we're in trouble. Because somewhere in our small minds, we think, especially Israel, that we can break God's laws and walk. Don't work like that. That's why you have to weigh this thing. What is it in this life that you would give up for immortality of becoming God? Or what is it in this life that you would take a chance on burning forever for? What is it, sisters and brothers? I can't name it. No money, no notoriety, no big position, no woman, or no man in your case, sister. It ain't worth it. Because the Lord wants to give this to you because he's going to surely call on you and to let you know that the Lord don't lie. Ain't we dying every day? It's all that simple. Exodus 32, and we're going to start at verse 1. Exodus 32 and 1. Because Moses up there, and see now, people say, well, he's getting them written, but the Lord had already spoke these to the people. You understand what I'm saying? He had spoken these, and it was still fresh in their mind. If one might have forgot, you had a whole nation to remind him. The Lord just spoke these. Verse 1, go ahead.
And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods which shall go before us.
Go ahead.
For as for this Moses, the man that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him.
Ain't that something? As for this Moses. This Moses, the Lord that used him to destroy Egypt. The Lord that used his staff to split the Red Sea. Now, you going to talk like some stranger that's come through? We don't say, up, make us God. As for this Moses, we don't know what has become of him. Go ahead and read.
And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, and of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me.
Now I can see when the Lord set his kingdom upon his earth why the high priest position was given to somebody else instead of Aaron. If everybody else go wrong, the priest supposed to stand tight, sisters and brothers. It's all that simple. So what did he do? Instead of saying, y'all talking crazy, give me the earring. Go ahead and read.
3. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool.
Go ahead.
After he had made it a molten calf, and they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
Can you believe that? Everybody saw them take the earrings out of the ear. Everybody saw him bring it to Moses. Everybody saw him put it in the fire and melt it down. Everybody saw them and then said, These be the gods that brought you up out of Israel. That your God was in your ear. I'm just saying, look at what's happening. Now you won't understand why people can be so easily deceived in these other churches, can you? Because we're looking for deception. You know why? Give me a carte blanche to do what I want to do and still get blessed. Don't work like that. Go ahead and read.
5. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, And Aaron made proclamation and said, tomorrow is the feast to the Lord.
Now, he went that on his own, didn't he? They just said, make me a cat. Then he jumped up and made a proclamation. Then he made him an altar. And now he going to set him a feast day. That's why Moses told Aaron, man, I had to really pray to the Lord for you, mister. He was going to kill you, and he should have. You know why? Because this one man, he is in the eye of all the people, and if he would stand straight, the people would be straight. If he fall off, the whole nation fall off, and that's what happened. I'm pretty sure you had some that didn't go with it because the Lord didn't kill them all. But then some went there. What verse are we?
We're at 6.
Go ahead.
And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play.
We love that, don't we? We like eating and we like drinking and we like shaking it up and shaking it down. That's our MO. That's why I'm going to tell you, it's two things that really gall me when I look at TV. They get one person from this nation or this nationality or this race, you know, he's dealing with scientists. Get another one over there, they dealing with something else. Then you bring in one of us, we're either dancing or singing. That irks me. Or either dribbling a ball. I said, this is all we worth? Dancing, singing, and playing sports? Come on, that irks me. I'm going to tell you the truth. So when they shaking it up and shaking it down, the Lord saw this, sister and brother. What the Lord said to Moses? Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Up, go get thee down, for thy people which thou brought out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves.
He said to Moses, you better get on down now. You know them people that you brought out of Egypt, he wouldn't even claim them. They have corrupted themselves. So Moses went on down. He tried to say no. He said, you better get on down there. Skip down to verse 15. Verse 15 and go ahead.
And Moses turned and went down from the mount. And the 2 tables of the testimony were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides. On the one side and on the other were they written. And the tables were the works of God. And the writing was the writing of God, graven from the tables.
The Lord wrote them himself, because he gave it to him himself, and he wrote them. Go ahead and read.
And when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. And he said, it is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I hear. He said, I don't hear no battle cry here down there. I hear a whole lot of cavorting and partying and carrying on. Go ahead and read. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh to the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hand and brake them beneath the mount. Can you understand why that? This man had been up there for 40 days and 40 nights, getting the commandments, and you can't even get out of the mountain before they break them. He got mad, and he cast them out of his hand and broke them at the mountain. We ain't going to tell you all he did. You can read that on his own, because we ain't dealing with the rest of it. But let's see what God did after that. Let's go on to Exodus, the 34th chapter. Exodus, the 34th chapter. Because you might break the commandment, but that ain't the end of the commandment. There's a message to be done here. Moses got angry, and he broke them. It's a physical thing, like he didn't break them like transgressing them, but this is something you got to look at. Even though the stones was broke, the commandment was still etched in stone. Verse 1, go ahead. And the Lord said unto Moses, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first. That's after the Lord done dealt with him, and Moses done dealt with him. He said, I want you to cut out me 2 more stones, just like it did the first. Go ahead and read. And I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest. I'm going to write the same words. Go ahead. And be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning unto the Mount Sinai, and present thyself there to me in the top of the mount. Skip down to verse 4 and go ahead. And he hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And Moses rose up early in the morning, and went up unto Mount Sinai, go ahead, as the Lord had commanded him, and took in his hand the 2 tables of stone. Go ahead. And the Lord descended in the cloud, and stood with him there. and proclaimed the name of the Lord.
Now the Lord came down in the cloud. He got close to Moses. That's when he let Moses see his backside. But he was there. He was so close to him, and he was there so long until Moses started to take on the characteristics of a immortal, a spirit being. But he was there because he wanted to make sure that these people understand the logistics, because if they didn't, somebody was going to die. Skip down to verse 27 and go ahead. Verse 27, go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Write thou these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel.
Like any other agreement, that's what a covenant is. You have to know the terms of the covenant. So he said, now I want you to write these words down, because after the tenor of these words have I entered into an agreement with Israel. In other words, I want you to know the terms of the covenant. If you got to pay me $2 a month, don't show up to me with $1.50 a month. I want to see $2. Go ahead and read.
And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights.
Again, go ahead.
He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments.
And he wrote upon the table the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. So we know what the covenant is, ain't it? This is agreement. See, people use covenant. They think covenant or testament. They think that it's something that's by itself. You cannot have a covenant unless it is founded on something. You cannot have an agreement unless some promises or vows have been exchanged. I'm going to give you this if you give me this. It's all that simple, sisters and brothers. Now let's go into Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter. So the Lord had him write it again, even though he had broken. 40 days, I'm going to tell you something, boy, that is real rough. You get to set up 40 days and 40 nights not eating or drinking again because your anger took over. God don't care nothing about your anger. If you cross the line, you got to do it all over again, and he will deal with you. That's something to take out of that, too. Moses broke the commandment. He broke them stones. That was his own anger. So the Lord just said, well, Moses, I understand, your anger, and because of your goodness, I'm going to let somebody else go through this labor again. He said, no, you come on up here. You do it. Because everybody is responsible for their own behavior. Learn something from that, sister and brother. Like when the Lord told Moses to give Israel drink, and he smoked the rock and said, do we have to give you drinks, waters, drink you rebel? God said, for that, you won't get into the promised land. Oh, I know Israel was wrong, but when you do something stupid, you just stepped in the wrong column, and everybody steps in the wrong column get the reward of the wrong people. This is what you got to understand. God don't say, well, Lord, he made me mad. That is to your hurt. That's why I said, be ye angry, but sin not. You better pay attention to this God, because this guy don't play. There is no excuse for you to break his law. Deuteronomy 10 and verse 1. Deuteronomy 10 and 1. See, the Lord tell you get wisdom and knowledge, but with all you're getting, get understanding. Get understanding. Verse 1. Go ahead and read.
At that time the Lord said unto me.
Moses telling these people now, kind of reiterating what's going on. At that time the Lord said unto me, go ahead.
Hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and come up unto me unto the mount, and make thee an ark of wood. And I will write on the tables the words that were in the first tables which thou breakest, and thou shalt put them in the ark.
He said, I want you to make me an ark of the covenant, because I'm going to put these tables in this ark. Go ahead and read.
And I made an ark of shittim wood, and hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and went up unto the mount, having the 2 tables in mine hand.
Go ahead.
And he wrote on the tables, according to the first writing, the 10 commandments, which the Lord spake unto you in the mount, out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And the Lord gave them unto me.
Now, that lets you know. He wrote down exactly what he said. He wrote these 10 commandments, the same words that he spoke to you out of the fire when all of us was assembled around Mount Sinai. So you ain't getting nothing new. These are the same words, the exact same words. Go ahead and read.
5. And I turned myself and came down from the mount and put the tables in the ark which I had made, and there they be, as the Lord commanded me.
So this time I was able to get out without breaking them. And they're right there where the Lord gave. Skip down to verse 12 and go ahead.
And now, Israel, what does the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
So he is telling you what he requires of you. Now he plain, ain't it? So what is it that the Lord requires of you, Israel? And what is required of Israel is required for the whole creation. That you love him with all your heart and all your soul. Go ahead.
To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good.
He said, and that's what he required. To love him and keep his commandments, which he command you that day for your good. That's why the Lord told Moses, now I'm going to come down in the front of the people so they will believe you forever. So whatever commandments that Moses wrote, these commandments are good today. And if you don't keep today these commandments, then you ain't never heard of the Lord of Israel. That's all you got to do is believe on Christ and you're going to be saved. How can you believe on a God that you have never heard? And how can you hear unless you have a preacher? And how can he preach unless the Lord sent him? Ecclesiastes tell you that a preacher seeks out the word of God. That's what is written and true. But you're a preacher and you don't say nothing that you can read, something's wrong. Whose preacher are you? Mm-hmm. But if you're a preacher, then you know what the Lord is saying about the commandments. Let's look at it. Let's go into 1 John, the 2nd chapter. Because he said, if these I wrote for you this day, these are the same ones. God went into the mountain, he spoke them to the people. Then he brought Moses up and he wrote them on stone. Moses broke them. He brought him back up and wrote him again. And now you going to tell me that the law ain't no more? Why would God go through all that trouble? This man, he lost 80 days and 80 nights fooling around with somebody. And you going to tell me that this law ain't no good? I tell you something, believe it if you want. 1 John 2 and verse 1. 1 John 2 and 1. See, the Lord speaks plain, sisters and brothers. You know, when you go to church and you're not wondering what pastor meant. That means pastor told you something was on his mind, not what's written in the book. You understand this, you're going to read it yourself. Verse 1, go ahead and read.
My little children, these things write I unto you, that ye sin not.
Now, we still talking sin, ain't we? Jesus done died and gone and back into heaven sitting at the right hand of the Father. We still talking sin. But if he had terminated the law, there would be no sin. We're going to show you that. He said, I'm telling you, sin not. Go ahead and read.
And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father.
So if you do sin, that's sin not on purpose, which has always been you have somebody to plead your cause. That's an advocate. Go ahead and read.
Jesus Christ the righteous. And he is the perpetuation for our sins.
Because he was the sacrifice for our sin. He is the one that paid the bail for us. Go ahead and read.
And not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world.
For anybody that want to tap into him. Go ahead.
And hereby we do know that we know him.
And hereby we do know that we know him. Go ahead.
If we keep his commandments.
Do I have to interpret that? If we keep his commandments. Go ahead and read.
He that saith, I know him, and keepeth.
He that says, I know him, go ahead.
And keepeth not his commandments.
And keepeth not his commandments is what?
Is a liar, and the truth is not in him.
Hey, no preacher can preach around that. Think about it, sisters and brothers. This is John. This is the guy that hung out with Jesus. You mean he don't know what he's talking about? Go ahead.
5. But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him.
Now that's when you know you're in him, when you keep his word. It's all that simple, sisters and brothers. Serving God, if you really in the Lord, you ain't going to fool around with, messing around with his law. It's all that simple. I ain't going to steal. So I ain't going to kill. I ain't going to run around and lie on people. and I'm going to keep my hand off of this brother's wife. Because I know this God that I serve is a dangerous God. That's why he tell you, better get wisdom and knowledge, but with all your getting, get understanding. Go ahead and read.
He that saith he abide in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked.
Go ahead.
Brethren, I write no new commandments unto you, but an old commandment which ye have from the beginnings. The old commandment is the word which ye have heard from the beginning.
He said, I ain't bringing nothing new to you. Later on, he said, yeah, I'll write something new, but it's new because he had made you understand that what you could do, think in your mind, got to the point you can't do that no more. I could think, I could walk around, I'm always lusting after this woman in my mind. As long as I kept my hand off her, it was cool. He said, no, since Jesus came, he told you can't do that. You're in trouble already. So he said, I didn't bring nothing new to you. All I did, this is the old commandment. This is the same one that Moses told you. So that means these commandments are good. But the first thing he said, my brother, I'm telling you, sin not. And a lot of people don't even know what sin is because you done fool around with the law. So we're going to go read it anyway. I don't want you to walk out of here empty from nothing. Because I'm going to tell you the truth. I am doing what the Lord intended for all of his prophets, his teachers, his ministers to do, is put your life on the table. It's up to you what you're going to do with it. 1 John, the 3rd chapter, and read 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Okay, go ahead.
Whosoever committeth sin transgresses also the law.
Oh, what is the law? That's the commandment that God gave, ain't it? Whosoever committed sin breaks also the commandments. Go ahead.
For sin is the transgression of the law.
For sin is the breaking of the commandment. That's the law, sisters and brothers. You can't build no points with God. He ain't no respecter of person. He will kill you. Well, you know, Lord, I've been serving you for 20 years. But he told you in Ezekiel, the 18th chapter, the day that you turn to evil, he ain't going to remember your righteousness. You don't build no points with God, sister and brother. I want you to understand this is because it is your life on the table. And the only reason mine's on the table is he made me a watchman. I don't tell you, so I'm going to tell you everything. And if you don't listen, I'm going to judge you. Right there on Judgment Day. He says sin is the transgression of the law. If you ain't got no law, you can't break it, sisters and brothers. Let's go into Romans, the 7th chapter. This is simple stuff. I don't know why. That's why I know that nobody's taught the Bible. Because how can you, if you have read the Bible, how can you overlook this stuff, sisters and brothers? It is impossible not to see this. That's why the Lord told Moses, write it down. In all his prophets, he told him, write it down. Because in every generation, when you say, well, you know, maybe somebody got the story wrong. You know about here, say, no, let's go read it. It is here. 7 and 7. Romans the 7th chapter, we're going to start reading at verse 7. 7 and 7. Okay, go ahead.
What shall we say then? Is the law sin?
Is the law sin? Go ahead.
God forbid.
God forbid. Nowadays you wouldn't think it, wouldn't it? People run out, oh, you a bunch of legalists over there. I hope I'm still legal. Would you want to be illegal? They go to jail for that. And when you're illegal with the word of God, you go to the lake of fire for that. So I'm a legalist. I mean straight up legalist. What shall we say? Is law for sin? God forbid. Go ahead and read.
Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law.
Go ahead.
For I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet.
See, how can you possibly know what sin is if something don't point it out? I didn't know I was lusting over this man's wife, his house, his property, until the Lord said, thou shalt not covet. Then I started, sometimes it ain't easy, but I had to work with that. Go ahead and read.
But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence.
That means uncleanliness, taking occasion by the commandments. The commandments did this wrong, that wrong, that wrong, that wrong. All of a sudden, wait a minute, I thought I was walking in a white suit. I'm finding out that it's black because all the soot is on it. I am real dirty. That's when I'm going to take some clothes off and do some washing here, because I got the wrong thing on my clothes. So it made it exceedingly sinful. Go ahead and read.
For without the law, sin was dead.
Uh-huh.
For I was alive without the law once.
Go ahead.
But when the commandment came, sin revived and I died.
He said sin was dead without the law. Because if you ain't got a law to point it out what sin is, how do you know if you're sinning or not? So he's a live sinner. I used to be a live sinner, and Lord God is my witness. I ain't going to stand before you and lie about it. I loved all of it. I lived life to the utmost. I had plenty gusto. Used to get so drunk I lose my car. And God know I'm telling you the truth. So drunk one night I saw yellow crossing lane. I thought they were school buses. I'm trying to keep them hitting the school. I enjoyed everything until the Lord put me to a point where I said, look, here's got to be more to this. So when I found out and run into this law, can't do this no more. Took me a long time not to want to do it anymore. But that's what a struggle starts. You have to fight this thing, sister. You have to fight this thing. It was a struggle to me. Because I'm a man the Lord always blessed me. Always gave me enough money to do everything that come into my mind. And God is my witness. I did just about all of it. So the law is the strength of sin. But when the law revived, that old boy died. Go ahead and read. 10.
And the commandment, which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death.
See, before you can get this life immortality, the old man have to be died. That's why Jesus said, if you find your life, you're going to lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will find it. Think about it, sisters and brothers. He ain't talking about just being born and getting old and die. He's talking about living forever. What is it that you won't give up for that? Go ahead and read.
For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me.
Go ahead.
Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good.
Now, sin, taking occasion by the commandment. In other words, he said, when I started reading the commandments, I saw I was sinning. I changed. In other words, it slew me. It killed me. That is what's set to give me immortality. Kill my old man. I had to change my behavior. Go ahead and read what verse?
13. Was then that which is good made death unto me? God forbid.
God.
But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandments might become exceeding sinful.
Now see, the Lord know what he couldn't deal with. He going to kill you, so he gave you, identify what he would kill you for.
Now, to any one of you out there, lay back and